On May 20th, 2026, at 8:16 in the morning, a 34-year-old Russian man with no legs pulled himself onto the summit of Mount Everest using only his arms. The international press carried the achievement within hours. What most of those outlets did not address was the deeper question: how did he make it possible? To understand what Rustam Nabiev actually did on the world's highest mountain, and what the climbing industry chose to celebrate and chose to omit, you have to start with a barracks that collapsed in Russia 11 years ago. The story begins in the city of Omsk, in southwestern Siberia, on the evening of July 12, 2015. Rustam Nabiev was 22 years old, sleeping in a barracks at the 242nd Airborne Forces Training Center. The four-story barracks had been renovated in 2013. That evening, while 42 paratroopers were resting inside, an entire section of the building gave way, roof and walls collapsing in the middle of the night. 23 did not survive. Nabiev was trapped beneath the rubble for more than 7 hours. The Russian authorities did not initially believe he was alive. By the time rescuers reached him, the lower half of his body had been crushed. He underwent 16 surgeries over the following months. He survived 2 clinical deaths. Doctors amputated both of his legs below the waist. The Russian government later prosecuted 11 defendants: military officials, oversight inspectors, and construction executives, for negligence, abuse of power, and violations of construction safety rules. The investigation found that the renovations carried out on the building in 2013 had compromised its structural integrity. For most people who survive what Nabiev survived, the remainder of life is the recovery itself. For Nabiev, the recovery was the beginning of a different project. Within 3 years, he was a competitive sledge hockey player, playing for the Moscow-based Phoenix Club. He won silver at the 2018 All-Russian Paralympic Games. He competed in bodybuilding. He began climbing mountains. In 2021, with a team of 5 Sherpas from the Nepali outfitter Imagine Nepal Treks, he reached the summit of Manaslu, the 8th highest mountain on Earth, at 8,163 meters. He became the first double amputee in history to reach the top of an 8,000-meter mountain without prosthetic legs. The achievement in technical mountaineering terms was harder than anything any of his prior climbs had required. The next obvious target was Everest. He spent the next 4.5 years preparing. The Everest expedition launched in the spring of 2026, the same season that produced the largest summit numbers in Mount Everest's commercial history. 1,008 climbers reached the top from the Nepal side, the highest ever recorded since expeditions began. Nepal issued 494 individual climbing permits, the most ever, and the season generated more than 1 billion Nepali rupees in royalty revenue from Everest alone. The expedition was operated by the Seven Summits Club, a Russian guiding company founded and led by the climbing leader Alexander Abramov, one of the most experienced Everest expedition organizers in modern Russian mountaineering. Nabiev began with an acclimatization climb of Mera Peak, a 6,470-meter mountain in the Mahalangur Range. He reached the summit on April 22, 2026, at 6:35 in the morning, guided by Ramkaji Shrestha, with support from Gyanu Rai and Reja Kulong. Logistics were managed by Refuge Mera Lodge at Kara. The Mera Peak summit was the structural rehearsal for what would follow. On May 13, 2026, his 34th birthday, Nabiev departed from Everest Base Camp toward Camp 1. His climbing team consisted of 5 Sherpas. 2 of them were with him at all times during the climb. A third was specifically assigned to monitoring his oxygen levels throughout the ascent, a critical responsibility given that his physical mechanics required substantially more upper body exertion than a standard climber's. The Seven Summits Club's expedition leader, Alexander Abramov, reported from base camp on the evening of Nabiev's birthday, coinciding with the start of his climb, that the entire team had gathered to wish him well, presented him with a painting signed by the full expedition, and then watched him leave with his Sherpas for Camp 1. By the time Nabiev reached the summit a week later, he had completed what is, in the technical terms used by the climbing community, one of the most extraordinary high-altitude expeditions in modern Himalayan history. The Khumbu Icefall is approximately 2 kilometers of fractured glacier between base camp at 5,300 meters and Camp 1 at 6,065 meters. It contains crevasses crossed by aluminum ladder bridges, ice towers that can collapse without warning, and routes that shift from week to week as the glacier moves. For an able-bodied climber, the icefall takes 3 to 5 hours to cross. Nabiev took 15. The video that circulated globally in mid-May shows him pulling himself across one of the ladder bridges using only his arms, his upper body suspended over a crevasse that drops into darkness. He moves hand over hand, lifting and replacing his own body weight with each pull. The 2 Sherpas with him are visible at the edges of the frame, monitoring the rope system that secures him to the bridge. The mechanics of the crossing are entirely his own. The safety system is the Sherpas. He told a reporter from the Kathmandu Post after the climb that the icefall was the most physically and psychologically difficult section of the entire expedition. The second most difficult section, he said, was the ascent from Camp 3 to Camp 4, which took him more than 14 hours. A standard climber covers that distance in 3 to 5. The mathematics of his climb are worth pausing on. The average able-bodied climber spends approximately 3 to 4 days on the final summit push from base camp. Nabiev spent nearly a week. Every meter of elevation gain required the full mechanical effort of his upper body. He could not stand, could not walk, could not redistribute his weight onto his legs when his arms began to fail. The Sherpas could not carry him through the technical sections. The route's geometry does not permit one human to be carried by another for any substantial distance. He had to climb every meter himself. He also had to do it while his body was operating in the thin air of the upper Himalayas. Above 8,000 meters, the atmospheric oxygen is approximately 1/3 of what is available at sea level. Even with supplemental oxygen, the body's capacity for sustained physical exertion drops sharply. Nabiev's body, in the death zone, was performing pull-ups on the world's highest mountain. For every meter Nabiev pulled himself up Mount Everest, the 5 Sherpas of his team were performing a labor that has, in the modern commercial era, become almost entirely invisible to the international press. The aluminum ladders that Nabiev crossed in the Khumbu Icefall were not placed by his personal team. They were placed by the Icefall Doctors, a Sherpa unit that arrives at base camp 2 to 3 weeks before the climbing season begins, and spends those weeks fixing the entire route through the glacier. The rope system that secured Nabiev as he pulled himself across the ladder bridges was anchored, tensioned, and inspected by the Icefall Doctors. The 2 Sherpas at his side during the 15-hour crossing were not climbing alongside him as companions. They were monitoring the anchor points, the rope tension, and his grip, ready to arrest a fall and refix him to the system if his arms began to give way over a crevasse over 300 feet deep. The mathematics of Sherpa labor on Mount Everest are worth understanding. A foreign client on a standard guided expedition crosses the Khumbu, Untold Icefall 3 or 4 times. Once on the initial push, once or twice during acclimatization rotations, and once on the final summit attempt. A Sherpa supporting that client crosses the icefall over 20 times during the same season, carrying loads of oxygen cylinders, food, fuel, and equipment to the upper camps. For an expedition supporting a slower-moving client like Nabiev, the supply chain required additional ferries, more oxygen bottles staged at higher camps, more food, more fuel for the longer duration camps. The oxygen logistics alone are a labor system the international press almost never describes. A standard climber on a guided Everest expedition uses approximately 4 to 5 bottles of supplemental oxygen during the full ascent. A climber spending 6 days above 8,000 meters, as Nabiev did, consumes substantially more. Each modern bottle, the Poisk brand titanium and Kevlar cylinders standard on Everest, weighs approximately 3 kilograms full. Each was carried by a Sherpa from base camp to Camp 4, through the icefall, across the western Khum, up the Lhotse face, and onto the South Col, at a labor cost that does not appear on any client invoice. The compensation for this work is, in the 2026 season, more publicly documented than it has ever been. According to the Global Summit Guide's wage ledger, which tracks operator disclosures and Sherpa community benchmarks, a climbing Sherpa working as a personal guide on Mount Everest earns between $8,000 and $15,000 for the full 2-month season. Senior Sherpas with International Federation of Mountain Guides certification reach between $14,000 and $18,000. The base wage runs between $2,500 and $4,500. A summit bonus, paid only if the client reaches the top, adds another $1,500 to $3,500. Load-carrying bonuses paid per kilo or per ferry between base camp and the upper camps that account for the remainder. A complete Western-led Everest expedition costs the client between $65,000 and $230,000 in 2026, with the most expensive private packages reaching as high as $1 million. The Sherpa labor that delivers the expedition has, since the 2014 Khumbu avalanche reforms, grown from approximately 22% of the operator fee to between 32% and 38%. That growth is meaningful. It is also, in proportional terms, modest against the explosion of pricing at the luxury tier, where operators charge 5 to 6 times what they did a decade ago without proportionally increasing the wages of the labor force. The Seven Summits Club's Nabiev expedition operated within this same wage structure. The premium that adaptive climbing requires, the additional oxygen, the additional crossings, the additional time in the death zone, the additional risk, was absorbed by the labor force without proportional additional compensation. The 5 Sherpas who supported Nabiev's climb received the standard 2026 climbing Sherpa wage range. The premium for the difficulty of the work did not flow to them. This is not unique to Nabiev's expedition. It is the structural reality of every adaptive climbing achievement that has been celebrated on Mount Everest in the modern era. The first person to summit Mount Everest with a prosthetic leg, for example, was not Mark Inglis in 2006. As much of the international press has implied, it was Nawang Sherpa, a Nepali climber who reached the summit on May 16, 2004, 2 years before Inglis. Nawang lost his lower left leg in a motorcycle accident in Kathmandu in 2000 and was fitted with a titanium and carbon fiber prosthetic at the University of California, San Francisco. Inglis was the first double-leg amputee to summit Everest in 2006. Haribuddha Magar, the British Nepali Gurkha veteran, became the first double-above-the-knee amputee to summit in 2023. Nabiev is the first to summit without any prosthetics at all. Each achievement is a meaningful first in a different category. Each was supported by Sherpa teams whose names rarely appear in the post-summit coverage. The earliest Sherpa pioneer in this category, Nawang Sherpa, the Sherpa who reached the summit on his own one-legged climb in 2004, is the first uncredited figure in a long line of uncredited figures. The pattern is the pattern. The named foreign climber is the protagonist. The Sherpas who made the climb possible are the structural support that the press chooses to compress. The mainstream international press, in the days after the summit, ran headlines that compressed the story to its protagonist. Russian soldier with no legs climbs Everest using only arms. Double amputee conquers Everest without prosthetics. Veteran reaches top of the world using only his hands. The Sherpa team that supported Nabiev was not, in most of those headlines, named. What is verifiable is that the team consisted of 5 experienced Sherpa guides operating under the Seven Summits Club's expedition framework. 2 of them were with Nabiev at all times during the climb, working in continuous rotation. A third was specifically responsible for monitoring his oxygen levels, a job that, on a climb of this length, required constant attention. The remaining 2 operated the logistics chain that kept the team supplied with oxygen, food, water, and shelter at the higher camps. Nabiev himself has been clear about what the Sherpa team did for him. To the Kathmandu Post, he said directly, "The Sherpas are truly strong and remarkable people. Without them, no climb is possible, whether the climber is able-bodied or not." He said the climb would have been impossible without them. He said he had entrusted his life to their experience and skills. He said he was deeply grateful for his safe return. The climber being celebrated for the achievement is the one telling the world the achievement was not his alone. That is the part of the story the international press chose to compress. This is not unique to the Nabiev expedition. It is the pattern that has defined the celebration of mountaineering achievements on Mount Everest for 30 years. The named foreign climber is the protagonist. The Sherpa team that maintains the route, fixes the ropes, carries the supplies, sets up the camps, monitors the medical conditions, and absorbs the disproportionate risk, is the structural support whose names rarely appear in the post-summit headlines. In 2026, the pattern collided with the most extreme adaptive climbing achievement in modern history. The result is a story that should, by any honest reading, be celebrated as both the achievement of one extraordinary man and the achievement of the 5 extraordinary Sherpas who made it physically possible. The honest assessment of Rustam Nabiev's Everest ascent requires holding 2 truths in the same hand. The first is that what he did is one of the most physically and psychologically demanding feats ever accomplished on Mount Everest. A man with no legs, climbing with only the strength of his upper body in the death zone, across some of the most technically difficult terrain on the standard route, pulling his own body weight across ladder bridges, 15 hours through the icefall, 14 hours from Camp 3 to Camp 4, 6 days above 8,000 meters. The athletic and mental performance is, by any classical measure, extraordinary. It is the first time in the recorded history of Mount Everest that anyone has reached the summit without the use of the lower half of the human body. The climbing community's measured response, from Sherpas Sherpa, the woman with the most Everest summits in history, who called it an extraordinary example of human willpower overcoming physical limits, is the right register. The second truth is the one the new chapter has already named. The labor system that made the climb possible was compensated within a wage structure that has not adjusted to the difficulty of supporting adaptive achievements of this scale. Neither truth diminishes the other. The most useful framing, and the one Nabiev himself has consistently used, is to celebrate both. The man who pulled himself to the summit, the 5 men who made it possible for him to do so. In the days after Nabiev's summit, the climbing community has been quietly working through a series of questions that the mainstream press has not addressed. Should the achievement be formally classified by the climbing record keepers, the Himalayan database, the Guinness World Records, the various national alpine clubs, as the first ascent of Everest using only the upper body? Most have already done so. The category is genuinely new. Future climbers attempting similar feats will measure themselves against the Nabiev standard. What does it mean that the climbing industry's most celebrated 2026 achievement was supported by a Russian guiding company at a time when Russian climbers face complicated questions about international participation in mountaineering? 7 Summits. Club's founder Alexander Abramov has continued to lead expeditions through the Russian state's various international challenges. The Nabiev climb is the highest profile result of that continuity. The geopolitical dimension of the achievement is a conversation the climbing world has not yet fully had. And what does it mean that the Sherpa team whose work made the climb possible is, in most international coverage, not named? Rustam Nabiev has, in the most public possible way, named his Sherpa team and credited them with his survival. The climbing world now has a choice about whether to follow his example or to continue the pattern the press has rewarded. Before you go, don't forget to check out the High Altitude Survival Guide in the description below. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and ring the bell. And tell us in the comments what you want Summit X to investigate next. The next forensic breakdown is already in progress.